I'm a hoarder, but not even my addiction can force me to enter my basement. The document that I'm about to leak contains sensitive information regarding life after death. It is written by a suburban dad named Nate Spangler who hung himself in his basement last year. He died with a smile on his face. My house has fallen into such disrepair that even my counselor is repulsed by it. Piles of junk undulate to the ceiling which emanate fumes so noxious I have to wear surgical masks just to breathe. However, my basement is empty. Not a single box or trash bag lines its concrete floor. The reason for this is simple. I refuse to go down there. Although my addiction compels me daily to travel down the worn wooden steps, my will to live outweighs this compulsion. The horrors that dwell in its shadowed corners will cause even an exorcist to tremble, and drove my wife from our home years ago. If I wasn't so frightened, I would set up security cameras along the walls to catch the dreadful phenomena that occurs daily on camera, for maybe then somebody wiser than myself can explain to me what on the surface seems unexplainable. However, given that my fear prevents me from even venturing near the door, my words will have to suffice. If you have any advice for me, please give it. I'm worried that the sinister forces in my basement are tainting the entire house. Should this happen, I don't know what I'll do. This house is my life. I have too many memories here to abandon it without a fight. However, I don't know how much fight I have left in me. My wife, Melissa, was the first person to grow weary of the basement. Upon moving into our house long before my hoarding started, she complained of hearing footsteps during the night. These sounds occurred between 3 and 4 AM and prevented her from sleeping. For this reason, she quickly became concerned. "I'm telling you, Nate," she said one morning. "There's something down there." "I believe you," I said. "I've just never heard the noises you're describing. Do you think we have rats?" "Unless these rats wear size 12 shoes, I doubt it. I think there's a person down there. Sometimes when I pass the door, I hear whispering. And other times, I hear raspy breathing, as if somebody is moments away from suffocating." I cast my eyes towards the ground, unsure of how to respond. She had made similar complaints of our last home. Eventually her fear grew to the point that I agreed to move. I did this no questions asked, for she was, and still is, the love of my life. However, I was hesitant to jump down that rabbit hole in our current house. We had only been living there for a few weeks. For the first time since our wedding, I questioned her mental health. "I don't know what to tell you, Melissa," I said, forcing myself to make eye contact with her. "I've been in that basement dozens of times. There's nothing down there, except musty boxes and rusty pipes." Melissa placed her head on my shoulder. "You're right. I'm sure I'm worrying about nothing. This house is beautiful. Let's forget about that smelly old basement." And forget about the basement we did, until one night I awoke to the sound of footsteps drifting under the door. I nudged Melissa awake. "Listen. The footsteps you described are back." We were silent for over a minute, listening to the heavy thumping of walking feet. "What should we do?" said Melissa. I lowered myself from the bed and put on my shoes. "I'm going to see who's down there. This is unacceptable." "Wait." She pushed off the covers. "I'm going with you. I don't want you to go alone." "Are you sure? If somebody's truly in our basement, they might be dangerous. Bare minimum they're mentally unstable." "I'm sure. We are a team. Always have been, and always will be." We walked into the hallway on silent feet and approached the basement door. The moment I placed my hand on the handle, the footsteps stopped. My heart pounded against my chest wall with such force my ribs ached. Why had the footsteps stopped so suddenly? Was the intruder aware of our presence? The thought of them hiding in a darkened corner, waiting to pounce on us as we descended the stairs, filled me with dread. Melissa placed a reassuring hand on my elbow and nodded her head. I nodded back, then swung open the door. A wave of darkness assaulted my senses. Other than my shallow breathing, not a sound could be heard in the entire house. I flipped on my flashlight, illuminating a narrow set of worn wooden stairs. I ignored the light switch to my left. Given how busy I was following the move, I hadn't gotten around to changing the basement's dead light bulbs. For this reason, we were forced to venture into the suffocating darkness with nothing but a dim flashlight to guide our steps. The stairs creaked as we walked. Blood roared in my ears as I reached the final step. I swung my flashlight around the cluttered room. What I saw sent me careening into the wall. A woman was crouched in the corner, forehead pressed against the wall. The sound of my flashlight striking the concrete made her turn around. I stared into her face and screamed when I saw Melissa staring back at me. My scream reverberated off of the concrete walls like a gunshot. I turned and looked at my wife, the real Melissa, before staring back into the bloodshot eyes of her doppelganger, for I know not what else to call such a logic-defying entity. "Stephanie," said Melissa, voice shaky. My blood turned to ice. "You know her?" I said. Melissa ignored me. "What are you doing here? I thought you were dead." Stephanie regarded her with a look of strained recognition. "Hey sis," she said. Her voice was just above a whisper, but wound through the room with unnatural volume. "I've missed you." A heavy silence descended over the basement. 1,000 questions lined my throat, but I decided to keep my mouth shut. Melissa seemed to be in control of the situation. Best let her take the lead. "Don't be frightened," said Stephanie, taking a step towards us. Her knees wobbled as she walked, as if her bones were broken. "I just wanted to see you." "This isn't possible," said Melissa. "You died right out of the womb." "You're right. I did. But then I grew up in hell. And now I've escaped.